guys, we are going to be starting chapter 4. And once again, this is something that we have gone over before in the past. It is solving one-step equations using addition and subtraction. We've done this last year. What we had to do, we chopped it, we boxed it, we did the opposite. Sometimes we call that opposite the inverse. When you did your vocabulary today, it was called the additive property of equality or the subtraction property of equality. So we're going to get just ready and we're going to just dive on in. So you need your orange notes, you need your pencil, you need your calculator, and I want you to follow along with me as I fill out my notes, and you need to be filling out your notes with exactly what I write as well. We're also going to pause the video during different times for you to practice. Like I said, this should be relatively familiar to you, so we're going to kind of go a little quickly with it. But if you need it to go slower or need it to pause, slow down, just raise your hand and ask Ms. Shepherd. I'm sure she'll be more than willing to help you with that. Okay, so looking at our notes, the first blurb here says two equations are blank blank when they have the same solutions. The addition and subtraction properties of equality can be used to produce equivalent equations. So the two equations are equivalent equations when they have the same solution. So equivalent, this should not be a new word to you guys, but in case you're having some trouble remembering, equivalent means equal. You hear that equivalent, equal in there. They're the same thing. Alright, so here we go. We're going to jump right in. We're going to solve these. So the steps in the process is the same as last year. You want to chop it, you want to box it, you want to do the opposite. And what I mean by chop it is we want to split this equation down the equal sign, because we are saying that these two equations are the same. However, we want to keep them balanced. So in order for something to be the same, they have to be balanced. Whatever happens to one side has to happen to the other side, and vice versa. So our goal here is to solve for x. And I know a lot of you have probably already figured this out in your head, but I still want you to write the steps in the process with me. So we've chopped down the equal sign so that we can see the two different sides of our equation. We've boxed in the variable. We want to isolate the variable. We want to get it all by itself. And then we're going to do the opposite operation. So right now, as you can see, the operation is subtraction. And so the opposite of subtraction is addition. Very good. So I'm going to add 5 because we also learned that these are each other's additive inverses, or they're each other's zero pairs, because negative 5 plus 5 ends up giving me a big whopping 0, which means it doesn't matter and it cancels out, leaving the only thing on that side an x. And whenever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side to keep it balanced. So I'm going to add 5 here. So I've got negative 1 plus 5, so if I punch that in my calculator, I get negative 4. And I can bring my x down. I have nothing else on the side with the x, just x by itself. So I know that x equals negative 4. Now, I want to check my solution. I want to check to see, is this right? So we're going to do some substitution. We're claiming that x equals negative 4. So we're going to plug that in and test that theory out. So here I have x minus 5 equals negative 1. I'm going to replace what I'm calling x with negative 4, and I'm going to punch it in my calculator to verify it. So negative 4 minus 5 should give me negative 1. And it does. It checks out. So I know that x has to be negative 4. Alright, so then we're going to come over here to example B. Same thing. I've got z. I'm going to rewrite it so I have some more space. I've got z plus 3 halves equals 1 half. So steps are the same. I'm going to chop it, box it. I want to isolate that variable, and I'm going to do the opposite operation. So right now I'm currently doing addition. So the opposite of that, it's additive inverse. It's zero pair is going to be minus 3/2, because 3/2 minus 3/2 gives me 0, so that cancels out. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now I've got z all by itself, so I can bring it down. I can bring my equal sign down. And I have 1/2. I'm going to punch this into my calculator. 1/2 minus 3/2, which gives me -1. And once again, I want to check my work. I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to write z plus 3/2 equals 1/2. I'm going to replace z with -1. I'm going to punch it in my calculator. It is -1 plus 3/2 equal 1/2. And it does, so I know my answer is correct, so I can circle my answer and move on. Alright, so we got some here that I want you to try. So I want to pause for a second, and I want you to try 1, 2, and 3. Solve it and check it for each one of them, and then we're going to come back. Alright. Now that everybody should have 1 through 3 done, we should have chopped it, boxed it, did the opposite. I should have got that p equals 3. That's what I should have gotten. Number 2, I should have chopped it, I should have boxed it, I should have done the opposite. That'll cancel. W. And 10.4 minus 13.2 gives me -2 8/10. And number 3, chop it, box it. I'm going to do the opposite, so I'm going to add 5/6. So I get x equals, I get 4/6, but when I punch it in my calculator, it simplifies it to 2/3. So either way would be correct. Okay? Now I want to pause the video again, and I want you to do 5, 6, and 7. So take a second to do those. Alright, once again, we're back. We should have our answers. I'm going to chop it, box it, I'm going to do the opposite. So C equals 8. Over here, chop it, box it, do the opposite. So K equals -6.3 minus 8.4. Equals -14.7. Circle my answers. Alright, number 7, don't freak out about it just because the variable's on the other side. We're still going to chop it. We still want to box the variable, and we want to move the stuff that's on the side with the variable. The whole goal in this is to get the variable by itself, to isolate the variables. So we're going to move this -7/3 over by doing the opposite operation. So these would cancel, adding 7/3. So I should end up with 5/3 equals W. Okay? Alright, turn the page with me. As you can see, you have some problems here. 13 through 27. I want you to take about, let's take about 8 minutes. If Ms. Shepherd will start a timer for 8 minutes, and we will go over these after that 8 minutes. So try to get as many of these done in the spaces below. So in these grids, or, well, it's not there on my computer, but on your paper, there's grids. I want you to go over, and I want you to do those problems, okay? Alright, so here we should have had A equals 19, Z equals -5. I'm sorry, not negative. Should be +5. My bad. Okay, K equals -20. X equals -18. G equals -10. C equals -3.6. W equals -15.4. I do believe that was, but it's on paper. Yeah, 4. Q equals -1.6. P equals -2/3. T equals 5.9. It's negative. Y equals 2.08. X equals -13.53. Q equals 5/18. R equals -29/20. Such an interesting fraction. And then W equals -37/24. Okay, so that's what you should have gotten for those. Sorry. It wouldn't let me hit the pause button to write all the answers out, so y'all had to listen to me come up with the answers as well. But anyways, there it is. Check it. Make sure you got them right. If you didn't, put a star by them, and we can go over them when I get back tomorrow. All right, moving on. Here we've got some word problems, some practice problems we want to try here. It says you have $512.50. You earn additional money by shoveling snow. Then you purchase a cell phone for $249.95 and have $482.55 left. How much money do you earn shoveling snow? Okay, so let's go back and see what we have going on here. It says you have this. Then you earn additional money. But we don't know how much additional money we earn. So when we don't know something, we assign it a variable or a value. So we have $512.50 plus some amount of money for shoveling snow. That ends up, okay, we know we have $482.55 left, but that's not the total amount we had. We also know that we bought a new cell phone for this much money. So that cell phone money, where did it come from? Did it come from our total that we made, or did it come from where? Right. it came from this amount right here, so it's actually could be added to this amount here. So we're going to add these two things together. Okay? That way we can figure out, well, how much total money were we talking about to begin with? And so we're going to add these two things together to figure out how much total money we started off with. So we have $482.55. Y'all put this in your calculator, and we get $249.95 on the cell phone, which means we started out with $732.50. So I know that I had this amount, I had $512.50 to start with, plus my shoveling snow money to give me this. So I want to solve for X. So I want to figure that out. So it's the same process. I still have to chop it, box it, do the opposite operation. Well, it's addition, so the opposite of addition is going to be subtraction. Those two things will cancel out. I bring down my X. So I have $732.50 minus $512.50 gives me $220. So he made, or she made, or whoever made $220 shoveling snow, which is kind of nice. I wish I could make $220 shoveling snow, but we don't have snow around here to shovel, do we? So it makes things a little bit more difficult. Okay? Alright, I do want to get to this problem on the back of this page. So we do have a couple word problems here that we'll look at doing later, but I want us to turn the page. And I want to look at these. Okay, we're talking about finding the perimeter of these shapes. How do I find the perimeter of something? You add it up, perimeter plus. So to find the perimeter, we have to add up all the sides. Well, I'm missing a side here. So I know that 5 plus 3 plus some length equals the perimeter, and our perimeter is 12. So how am I going to solve for the missing side? Well, I mean, I have to follow order of operations and do my inverse and stuff, but like, is there anything I can combine on this side of the equation? Yeah, our constants. I can combine 5 and 3, which gives me 8. So now I have 8 plus x equals 12. And I can solve that. So I want you to go ahead and solve that. That's right. You chop it, you box it. We're going to do the opposite. So x equals 4. Okay? Same thing with 37. I want you to try that. While I work this out quietly, I want you to work it out on your own too. So we're trying to find the perimeter. We know we know the perimeter. We're trying to find the missing side length. Okay, and so I have a perimeter of 24 2/10 inches, and that adds up to be x plus 8.3 plus 3.8 plus 8.3. And so I can combine these here to get a total of 8.3 plus 3.8 plus 8.3. I hope you're doing this with me. Gives me 20.4. So to solve for my missing side length, I can chop it, box it, do the opposite. So 24.2 minus 20.4 gives me 3.8 x. Now, some of my brilliant children, you may have already realized what it was without having to go through all of this. Because if you recognize what shape is this? Opposite sides are parallel, they're not touching, so they're a parallelogram. With parallelograms, opposite sides are congruent. So if you notice 8.3 and 8.3, those are the same. So if this is 3.8, that means this side needed to be 3.8 as well. Now that's not always going to happen, but because this was a parallelogram, you could have looked at that and seen that. Now 38 is not a parallelogram, so you definitely have to solve and figure that out. So I want you to take a second, and I want you to try this one. So for my facing side length, I got 11 9/10 of a foot, and that's what you should get as well. And I have up here how you would go about getting those things. Okay? Alright, this is going to be the last one we do for today, because it should be about time for y'all to go, if it isn't already. So it says the sum of the measure of angles of a triangle equals 180 degrees. What is the missing angle measure? So each triangle has 3 angles, 1, 2, 3, and all 3 of those should add up to equal 180. So we have a missing piece, just like we had with the perimeter. So I know that the angles are supposed to equal 180 degrees. I know I have an angle of 30.3 and an angle of 40.8, but I'm missing one, M. So same process, we would add these two together. So 40.8 plus 30.3, and we should get 71 1/10 equals 180, plus this missing angle. So then I chop it, box it. I'm going to do the opposite on both sides, making sure it's balanced. So M ends up equaling 108.9 degrees. Okay, that is it. Hopefully that wasn't too crazy of a mess. And I hope you all have a marvelous Monday, make good choices, no homework tonight, and I will see you tomorrow.